Good afternoon and welcome to the June 8th, 2026 meeting of the Orlando City Council. We're going to begin today's proceedings with the invocation of the Pledge of Allegiance, led today by Commissioner Tony Ortiz.
Thank you, Mayor. Let us bow our heads in prayer. Heavenly Father, we come before you with grateful hearts, thankful for the opportunity to gather here today in service to our community. Thank you for the many blessings you have bestowed upon our city and for the people who make Orlando a place of hope, opportunity, and strength. Lord, we ask for your guidance as we carry out the work before us. Grant us wisdom in our decisions, discernment in our discussions, and the humility to place the needs of others above our own. Help us to lead with integrity, compassion, and a servant's heart. We pray for our residents, our families, and our neighborhoods. Watch over those facing hardship, bring comfort to those in need, and strengthen those who dedicate themselves each day to serving others. Lord, remind us that leadership is a calling to serve. Give us humility in success, perseverance in challenge, and integrity in all that we do. May our actions reflect a commitment to improve the lives of those who represent and strengthening the community we are privileged to serve. As we begin this meeting, unite us in purpose and guide our efforts towards building a brighter future for our city and all who call it home. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Stuart used to do that all the time.
Okay, let's call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll and make a determination of a quorum, please?
Yes, Mayor. Commissioner Keen. Commissioner Ortiz.
Here.
Commissioner Chapin. Present. Commissioner Sheehan.
Here.
Commissioner Rose.
Here.
Commissioner Burns.
Present.
Mayor Dyer.
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum with all members present.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. First order of business is consideration of minutes from the May 11th City Council and Agenda Review meetings.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Rose. All in favor indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? And so the motion carries. Okay, we don't have any awards presentations today, so we will go right into the mayor's update. And it is hard to believe, but Friday will mark 10 years since the Pulse tragedy, and we all recognize that this week is a difficult one for so many people that live here in Orlando as well as beyond. And I invite the community to our annual remembrance ceremony at 5:30 p.m. on Friday at the First United Methodist Church in downtown, and together we'll continue to offer love and hope to the families of the 49, their survivors, and all those who were impacted. We are also in the process of creating a permanent memorial at the Pulse site. We had an update on the memorial this morning. I want to thank Commissioner Sheehan and the entire City Council for their support, and also recognize the work of our city staff and partners to ensure that those impacted in our entire community have a place to remember and reflect. I also remain incredibly proud that Orlando remains a welcoming city for all. June is Pride Month, and our community once again reaffirms our commitment to valuing and respecting the LGBTQ plus community and every person here. It's also June the 19th is a holiday for our City of Orlando employees. Juneteenth marks the end of slavery in the United States in 1865, and commemorating Juneteenth allows us to celebrate civil rights progress and also recognize the injustices that Black Americans have endured. As part of that commemoration, Commissioners Burns, Rose, and the City Council are inviting the community to a resource fair on Saturday, June 20th at 11 a.m. at Grand Avenue Neighborhood Community Center. Okay, I have just a couple items of note on the agenda today. I want to congratulate Sonia Carnival for her appointment as the new Director of Housing and Community Development. Sonia, where are you? Here you are. Since joining the city team in 2016, she's played a key role in leading our efforts to ensure that every resident, regardless of economic status, has access to safe, affordable housing. Sonia is succeeding Orrin Henry, who is retiring after 13 years of service. We're grateful for his commitment to creating and preserving affordable housing throughout our city. Items B2, B8, 4B, and 13E relate to advancing our downtown action plan. That includes two-waying streets, increasing park space, and making downtown a more vibrant, walkable, and welcoming place for everyone. We have been making significant investments in our downtown, everything from Creative Village to North Quarter to Thornton Park, and we're seeing the private sector follow suit. Unfortunately, in the case of our downtown historic district, which is at the heart of our city, it is not the case. And I think we can all remember when Church Street was a major entertainment district. In fact, at one time, it was the fourth most visited destination in the state. But since this once active area has become evidenced by visible blight, long-term vacancies, and shuttered storefronts, so today we have two items that are going to help as a catalyst to transform Church Street into a viable active space again. One is a action to create a flexible festival street for events and outdoor dining. The other is a temporary 36-month modification to the review and approval process for projects in our downtown historic district. Last item I would like to mention, I think everybody knows the Hoods Up location in Thornton Park, or I'm sorry, in the Milk District, on the other side of Thornton Park in the Milk District. The Usler Development Company has made plans to transform it into a new restaurant in partnership with the Good Salt Restaurant Group with Jason and Sue Chin. So that's a great adaptive reuse. I was wondering what was going to happen there, and that's another great partnership. Good luck with that, Craig. All right, with that, we will move on to the consent agenda, which is a number of items acted upon through a single vote of council. We give each of our council members an opportunity to comment on the consent agenda and important happenings from their district. We rotate the order that we do that. And first up today is Commissioner Ortiz.
Thank you, Mayor. Please excuse my voice today, it's a little raspy. But May 13th, I attended a ribbon cutting ceremony with Mayor Dyer and Commissioner Bakari Burns for Town Oaks Flats, a new place on Commissioner Burns' district, a beautiful place. And what is most exciting is about the people that are coming in. It's affordable. We're seeing a lot more of that in our city. We're really trying to catch up to the people that are moving to the Central Florida region. And for those who have any doubts out there, please let me remind you that we are victims of our own success. By the grace of God, I think we've been doing pretty good with our community, and that attracts a lot of people. So therefore, we have to build a lot pretty fast. Sometimes it's not as fast as we can, but it's a beautiful and very welcoming building for people, affordable housing. So congratulations, Commissioner. Beautiful structure there. On May 15th, I had the pleasure of attending the UCF Global Community English Program graduation celebration. Another great asset we have in our community. A lot of people moving to our Central Florida region and they do not speak the language. It could be languages from different countries, not only Spanish, but Haitian, French, Russian, whatever. And UCF has this great program where they're teaching people. There's a lot of professionals coming from other countries, and they find themselves here having to take on jobs that are not exactly of their professions, what they study, what they practice in their countries. So they come here, and UCF Global is helping them catch up in terms of being able to speak the language and practice their professions here. So that's a great asset to our community, especially there's so many needs out there that we need to attend to. So congratulations to UCF Global and Ms. Jennifer Haddad and all her team over there. On June 20th, I joined community leaders, healthcare professionals, and residents for the ribbon-cutting celebration of Orlando Family Physicians. For more than 20 years, the organization has provided personalized healthcare services to the Central Florida, serving more than 100,000 patients. This milestone reflects its continued commitment to improving health outcomes and delivering quality care to family throughout our region. On the 27th of May, I attended Days to Shine session of Estefan Kitchen Orlando, yes, when you think of Estefan, yes, it's the lady from Miami Sound Machine, her husband. She has this place, it's called Estefan Kitchen Orlando, and they had this great event over there that empowers Hispanic women across Central Florida through mentorship, professional development, and meaningful connections. The evening brought together community leaders, entrepreneurs, and change makers committed to creating opportunities and uplifting others. It was also an honor to meet Emilio Stefan, whose leadership and contributions continue to inspire generations. Thank you to Evelyn Betancourt, Shiny Magazine, and everyone who helped make this impactful event possible. May 26th, we concluded the final session of the Government Academy, this year's Government Academy, bringing to a close 12 weeks of learning, engagement, and civic education for participating residents, especially on this day and age where there's so much confusion about government. I want to thank all of the instructors, city staff, and department leaders who share their time and expertise throughout the program, helping residents gain a deeper understanding of the many services and functions of local government. When you take this academy at no cost to you, you graduate with 2 continued education credits from UCF. So you guys are welcome to take it. Okay, it's 12 weeks. We do it in Spanish and English. The next session is going to be in Spanish. It starts in August. And the next one in English starts in February next year. So we look forward to celebrating the accomplishments of this year's class, the Government Academy graduation. June 6th to the 4th to the 6th, Florida League of Cities Board of Directors and Nominating Committee meetings. We attended the Florida League of Cities Board of Directors Nominating Committee. Among the key topics discussed were the legislature proposed property tax reform, which this morning we had a nice presentation from Kyle Shepard. We'll be discussing this a little further in your communities so you guys know the difference and what kind of impacts this is having. The mayor made a great point in comparing the impact of the increase in insurance compared to the increase in property taxes. Actually, property taxes, there has been an increase because the millage has stayed the same here in the Central Florida region, but those who are purchasing new homes may have seen a huge impact. That we may have to address. But when we compare to the needs that we have and how the legislature had kind of put aside dealing with the actual issue, which is the impact of those insurance companies and the insurance fees that we're paying, which is, what do you say, Mayor, over 100%?
In my case, 150%.
150%, that's a big difference. And I think we are falling into the wrong notion of what we need to really be addressing here. So let's discuss that further. And finally, last but not least, is the Community Rainbow Run this past Saturday. Staff, that was fantastic. I know the Commissioner Chapin was there, Commissioner Sheehan, who led the efforts. Thank you, great job, Commissioner Sheehan. It was a lot of fun. Yes, we did ran the whole thing, and well, we jog and walk and ran.
I cannot tell a lie. No, we didn't, Commissioner.
Some of us, attempted it. So, but it was fantastic. Seeing, more than anything else, is seeing the camaraderie from every walk of life, people coming together, celebrating, talking, mingling, having a good old day as a family, as a big family, Central Florida Region family. That's what this is all about, and being able to enjoy such a great day. It was a beautiful day. Did you ask for that directly to the Lord upstairs?
Always.
Okay, so it was great. So, Mayor, with that being said, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Chapin.
Thank you, Mayor. Since the last City Council meeting, I had the opportunity to join our solid waste crews and actually ride on the back of one of our garbage trucks throughout Lancaster Park in District 4, Commissioner Sheehan. Beautiful neighborhood, it's where I grew up. And their professionalism and hard work, it was hot and it was hard work, and I did not last an entire shift. But riding on the back of a dump truck and maybe throwing out the first pitch at a Little League game are like top 5 for me, so I'm already 2 of my top 5. I had the opportunity to attend a celebration for Bill Jennings, who's a College Park resident, has served for the last 15 years as a crossing guard for Princeton Elementary, and Bill's also been deeply involved in the College Park Neighborhood Association. Had the opportunity to attend the 2026 Ivanhoe Main Street State of the Village in District 3, and it was inspiring to hear about the investment and growth happening in the district. Had a lot of businesses there, a lot of board members there, and some members of the public. We've got a lot going on in that Main Street district, so that was an important meeting. Had the opportunity to attend a ribbon cutting for Key Foods in Rosemont, a much needed and greatly valued addition to that community. This weekend, we celebrated the 25th anniversary of Baldwin Park as a cherished part of District 3, and I was proud to present a proclamation during the anniversary festivities on behalf of Mayor Dyer and myself and the commission. Also, just this, what's today? Monday? What is today? Yeah, last week, attended the Orange County State of the County address on Friday, and it was a great delivery and a final address by Orange County Mayor Jerry Demings on hearing about the progress and initiatives underway and lots of partnership between the county and the city. Proud that the city and the county partner well together on so many important endeavors, and I'd also like to express my continued prayers for Mayor Demings on his recent health diagnosis, which he claims he has caught early and is treatable. Over the weekend, it is true, my wife and daughter and I participated in the Community Rainbow Run. It was a fantastic event. It was fantastic weather. City staff did an amazing job. Volunteers did an amazing job. Commissioner Ortiz, you said it was inspiring to see families, first responders, residents, and everyone cheering us along the way. I thought I was doing pretty good. And then 3 police officers ran by me with all their vests and gear on. So I realized there were a lot of people passing me, but made it all the way through. And I know we stand united as a city and look forward to honoring the 49 angels whose lives we will remember always. Today's agenda, item 3E4 on the consent is an installation agreement for a new mural at Gaston Edwards Park within the Ivanhoe Village Main Street District. I'm thrilled to see this cultural addition coming to the village. And as a reminder, Mayor, from consent agenda review, I will be voting no on 3D1 variance 1007.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Sheehan?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Well, this week marks 10 years since the Pulse Massacre. It is something this community will never forget. As a proud member of the LGBTQ+ community, this is very personal and it hits home every single year. To the families and survivors, we can't take away your pain, but we will honor you and your loved ones. The memorial will be a beautiful and lasting tribute to them. This weekend was the Rainbow Run to raise funds for the memorial. It was a day of joy and resilience. I saw many families and survivors there. I want to thank the City of Orlando staff for putting on a beautiful event. Many have supported and helped since day one. Many of the folks here at City Hall went to Camping World to help with immigration status, to help with funeral arrangements, to all kinds of things that you could have never known that would happen on such a large scale, referring them to counseling at the center. And they have done such an amazing job through this entire 10 years. And thank you from the bottom of my heart to everyone on the City of Orlando for everything that you've done since day one. I see your heart and your sincere desire to help others, and you inspire me every single day. Gay pride is not about special rights. It's about equal rights. It's about being able to be authentically yourself without fear of losing your job, your housing, and even your life. Celebrate Pride Month. We may reside in a state of hate, but we live in a city of love, Orlando United. I also want to wish Mayor Demings good health and healing during his health concerns. I was disappointed to hear that he had to suspend his candidacy, and he's been a wonderful leader. I've known him since he was chief of police, solid community advocate, and wonderful person. And I don't know why bad things happen to good people, but that's why we have faith. So we wish him well during his healing. On the agenda today, I also want to congratulate Sonia Carnival as appointed to the Director of Housing and Community Development. And I also want to thank Orrin Henry for his many years of service. And every now and then we'd have a little hair pulling about something, because sometimes we saw things differently, but he did a great job for the City of Orlando, and he will be very missed. So we're going to miss you, Orrin, but I do know that you will enjoy your retirement. You and Lisa will enjoy your retirement. On the agenda today also is the Virginia Forest Careen Drive to Bennett Road project. We're finally getting something done in this area. Commissioner Chapin and I share this project, and I'm delighted to see it moving forward. I just hope it happens within my lifetime, because I actually live in that area. Also, the Milk District Vision Plan, I want to thank staff for taking the community input seriously and bringing it back to make sure that we utilize all of the planning stuff and consolidate everything to make sure that we address all the concerns over there in the Milk District. Main Street, and also I'm delighted on item 3D2, the Historic Preservation Board, the nomination of the Lancaster Arches as local landmarks. I just hope that we will take these landmarkings seriously and take historic preservation seriously. And that's all I had, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Rose.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners, and everyone here today. It's been a busy and productive few weeks in District 5 and across our community. I also echo sending prayers to Mayor Jerry Demings and his family as he goes through his medical procedures. I want to thank the Salvation Army for their unwavering commitment to our community. For those that don't know, they don't just have a homeless shelter, they also do addiction rehabilitation in our community. And so grateful for their partnership. Kicked off Salvation Army, National Salvation Army several weeks ago with them. I want to thank Crew Orlando for inviting me to serve as a panelist alongside our future leaders. It was a great opportunity to discuss exciting growth and opportunities happening in our downtown Orlando. For me, it's a great opportunity to give young people insight where they may not have the time to come to a city council meeting or keep up with the municipal planning, to hear the questions, concerns, and the vision of where we're going and where we're heading in downtown. I'm proud to share the City of Orlando is now eligible to receive swim lesson vouchers through the state of Florida. I want to give a special thank you to the FBR team, Anthony Williams, Brenda Scott, Dr. Patricia Rita, and Rodney Williams. When I first reached out to staff last year and said, hey, we have several of our pools that are now classified as 365, and so making sure that we can provide swim lessons. I also sit on the Orange County Water Safety Task Force. Wanted to expand our opportunities to receive, to help our 0 to 4-year-olds, which is now changed to 7-year-olds, to get swim lessons here in our community. For those who receive Medicaid in the community, they get something called a swim voucher. So I reached out to staff and said, hey, we should get on the list to be able to offer the swim lessons, and due to staff's steadfast work, thank you, Rodney, we are now approved to receive swim vouchers from the state of Florida, and this will help and make sure that we increase 0 to 7-year-olds and swim lessons here in our community. For those that don't know, Orange County is, I want to say, 3rd in the state for the most drownings. And so when we start building a lot of our apartment complexes in our communities, they have retention ponds, et cetera. And so making sure we're increasing swimming lessons is really important for me. So thank you, Rodney and team. Thank you to GROW Incorporated for continuing to engage our community, especially our youth. GROW is an organization that promotes trade careers and trade training, and they even offer scholarships in partnership with Valencia College. Recently, we hosted a youth talking and speaking engagement panel session to kind of talk through and engage with our youth to show them that you could do non-traditional higher education, get a trade, and you could be making anywhere from $50,000 to $60,000 starting with, from electrician to plumbing, et cetera. I want to thank the Orlando Zetas and By Grace Mentoring for hosting their annual Blueprints in Our Future event. This engaged with our young people. Different speakers come out and talk to the youth from how to build resumes, ways to dress and carry themselves from a young age so they start making the right decisions from early. I want to congratulate Magnolia Towers community right across the street. They have been serving our seniors here in the community for 60 years. And some of the seniors, if you've never been over, check out, and I would say spend some time. For those that don't know, sometimes seniors, their families send them off to a senior living facility and forget all about them. So just stopping into some of the senior facilities around our community means a lot. I want to welcome and congratulate Ocala Supermarket. It's the newest Caribbean grocery store in our community. It's on 601 North Powers Drive. Together, we continue building a stronger, safer, and more connected Orlando. Now on to the agenda. Congratulations, Sonia. Look forward to continue to work with you. Oren gets to retire for a second time. I want to congratulate the board, the individuals who have been appointed and reappointed to our city boards, but a special shout out to District 5 resident Deborah Settles for joining the Code Enforcement Board, and Oliver Von Trapp for being reappointed to the nominating board. Thank you, everyone who steps up and serves on any of our advisory boards or committees here in the city of Orlando to help shape the future of our city. So there's a lot happening in and around on the agenda. Mercy Drive is part of District 5, and it's one of the communities that is growing. What people don't realize is with the Packin District, Mercy Drive has become, I would say, more populated with individuals wanting to be closer to work, closer to the opportunities that are happening. I want to thank Corey and Public Works for continuing to pay attention to the Orange County portions of Mercy Drive. And so on the agenda, we will be doing a treatment, stormwater treatment with Lake Lawn. We do not own Lake Lawn, we do not own the park, but we are making sure that our residents have safe streets and we reduce flooding. So for those that don't know and have not, so on the agenda, I'm glad to move forward with the service authorization to Cells USA LLC for design build services for Solar Tables of Connection project. Thank you, Mike Hess and the sustainability team. For those that do not know, and you should visit one of our parks, the one that stabilizes the willows. So we have something called Table of Connections where it's solar powered stations inside of our parks, and so it's a partnership with FPR, but it's stations where you can charge your phone, you can use Wi-Fi services for free in our park. It's our commitment to sustainability and smart city goals, but it's also an opportunity to make sure in the communities everyone has access to charging as well as Wi-Fi. Together we continue investing in the people, infrastructure, and opportunities that make District 5 and the city of Orlando stronger, and that's all I have here.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Burns.
Thank you, Mayor, and good afternoon, fellow council members, as well as all in attendance. June is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, and unfortunately, there's still stigma around men and mental health, making it more difficult for men and boys to seek out the help that they need. You know, some men may still feel that they are expected to hide their emotions and man up and just kind of deal with it or suck it up. But we have to, as a community, as a nation, we have to try to change that narrative so we can encourage men and boys to seek the mental health care that they need, because unfortunately we're seeing an increase in suicide amongst men. So again, let's work together. So, fellow men, let's reach out to our family, friends, colleagues, and check on them. And, and our women, please check on the men in your life and encourage them. And also let them know that it's okay to seek help. We have a few housing updates. As Commissioner Ortiz mentioned, we had the grant of the ribbon cutting for Town Oaks apartment in Holden Heights. We're currently leasing. That's affordable housing for community members of all ages. Also, so if you want to apply, you can reach out to Town Oaks at 407-988-0827. Also, we're excited about Grand East Village, another affordable housing development coming up in District 6. This one is an affordable senior housing development, so it's restricted for individuals who are 62 and above. We're anticipating the move-in would be sometime in July of 2026. So if you're interested or know people who are interested, please have them to reach out to Grand East Village at 833-958-6789. And again, I just want to applaud Mayor Dyer as well as our entire city commission for our commitment to ensuring that we're getting affordable housing, not just in District 5, not just in District 6, but throughout our beautiful city. So thank you for your leadership, Mayor, in that. Also with around community engagement, on the May 16th, I had the opportunity or the pleasure of participating in the 3rd annual Mental Health Awareness Day that's put on by Generational Mindset. This is a mental health organization led by a young African-American male who seeks to provide therapy, but also educate our community on mental health and mental health awareness and mental health fitness. So continue to be glad to support them. Also on May 18th, I attended the closing ceremony for the Hankins Park Tennis Camp. And I'd like to say thank you to the Darcy Foundation for putting this together. It was a free camp. That was an 8 weeks camp where all the participants got the skills for around tennis, learned the game, and it was a great time. My daughter actually had a chance to participate, and I think we've developed a tennis lover in the family. I also like to say thank you to Axiom Bank for their support of this initiative. On May 20th, had the pleasure of participating in the Spectrum News Scholarship presentation for Jones High senior Brianna James, who will be attending my alma mater, Florida A&M University, and she'll be studying pre-pharmacy. She was valedictorian of Jones High School in 2026, ranked #1 out of 350 with a GPA of 5.25. I didn't know it got that far, but apparently it does. So and I think she is the first of her family to go to college. So we're very excited for her and what that means for her future and her family's future. Also on May 28th, along with Commissioner Rose, we acknowledged and celebrated the birthday of our Commissioner Butler, who recently passed. And Commissioner Butler had a routine of always serving the seniors on her birthday. And so several of us have gotten together to continue serving our seniors as we acknowledge and thankful for the work of Commissioner Butler. Also on May 29th, I attended the Athletes Connection Foundation Scholarship event. This was a scholarship event where we're acknowledging seniors. I think there was over 20 some odd scholarships that were given out. My office actually sponsored one of the scholarships, so we'll continue to support those endeavors. Also, on May 30th, I hosted my second annual for Student Success Scholarship Brunch. This is an opportunity where I award scholarships to seniors who either live in District 6 or attend school in District 6. So we had 17 scholarship recipients. So we're excited to continue to support them because, you know, we know that going to school is not just about the tuition or the books. There are also additional costs that are not actually sometimes thought about. So we're excited to be able to give 17 $1,000 scholarships to seniors in District 6. A few upcoming events. Central Florida Mobile Diaper Distribution will happen Tuesday, June 9th at the Grand Avenue Center starting at 9:00 a.m. Families can receive diapers, hygiene items, and community resources while supplies last. Also, on June 17th, we'll be having our district-wide, District 6 district-wide town hall meeting, which will be sponsored by OUC, the Reliable One. This will happen June 17th at 6:30 at the Dr. James R. Smith Center. So we encourage residents and of District 6 and throughout the city to come attend. We'll have representatives from a lot of our departments sharing information, answering questions. Again, all in an effort to ensure that we are educating our residents, because oftentimes what I found as this being my 6th year as a commissioner is that there are a lot of resources that the city has. The key is connecting those resources with our residents. So we're being intentional about that, and a lot of that will happen at this District 6 Town Hall. Also was mentioned, excited for the Juneteenth celebration happening Saturday, June 20th at Grand Avenue Neighborhood Center. Mayor, on the agenda, I also would like to say congratulations to Sonia Carnival. I've had the pleasure of working with Sonia prior to me joining the City Commission. through my work with the Healthcare Center for the Homeless, and she's been very instrumental in some of our development, so thank you for that. But I do look forward to working with you in this new capacity. I know you're going to do a great job. And also like to say thank you to Orrin for his time, for his service. He did a lot, spent 13 years and did a lot of good work here, and we thank him for all that he's done. Also, as Commissioner Rose mentioned, I'd just like to acknowledge 3A2, the Citizens Advisory Appointments, and say thank you to all of those who are being appointed or reappointed. We cannot operate our great city without these types of volunteer boards. So please, if you haven't looked into joining the board, look into doing it. I first served on the municipal planning board before becoming a commissioner. So you learn a lot, but also it's an opportunity for you to serve our great city. Also, I'd like to 3E1 funding agreement with 4C, support that funding agreement, as well as 3E2 and 3E3 funding agreement with the Orange County School Readiness Coalition, one for their Baby Institute program, as well as their early care and learning program. And then the last but not least, under the ordinance for first read, I'd like to express my support for the renaming of Alexander Place to George Stewart Place. Commissioner Stewart outlined earlier many of the accomplishments of his father and the great impact that his father had on our great city. And the late Ron Rogers told me probably about 10 or 12 years ago that George Stewart Sr. was the first businessman in the Orlando area to hire a black salesman. And I thought that was important because that was almost unheard of during that time. And so I just enjoyed hearing Commissioner Stewart talk about all that his father has done. So again, I am glad to support the renaming of Alexander Place to George Stewart Place. And that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Keene.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, everyone. To start out, I want to thank everyone who helped me make my inaugural Spring Fest a tremendous success this past weekend. I know we had a lot of things going on this weekend. This event brought together our community, showcased over 80 local businesses. I'm grateful to the many city departments and staff that joined me on a Saturday to make that possible, including, and I'm just going to read them out, Office of Local Assistance, Office of Sustainability and Resilience, Code Enforcement, Orlando Wetlands was out there, Transportation Department, who, by the way, sized and fit 70 children with new bike helmets. Public Works and Solid Waste Division were also on site. I want to give a special thanks to the Orlando Fire Department, Local 1365, who was on site with retirees, new recruit cadets, as well as off-duty firefighters manning the grill all day in 90-degree weather. And thank you, Chief Teamer, for making your team available and equipment out at the site. I'd also like to thank the OPD Color Guard and Corporal Gladys Justiano for kicking off our event with the national anthem and a pristine presentation of the flag. And thank you to Chief Smith for coming out and enjoying the day with us as well. And also I'd like to give a shout out to my staff for making the Spring Fest run smoothly. It's truly a team effort, and your commitment helped to create an enjoyable experience for everyone who attended. Now, one big highlight from last week was the great big backpack build out at the Convention Center. Thankful to continue my partnership with the Good for Teaching. Thanks to the generosity and hard work of volunteers, we were able to fill thousands of backpacks with school supplies to help students start the school year coming up here in August and be prepared for success. On the consent agenda today, item 3K1, I'm very pleased to be voting on that today for approval of a cost-sharing agreement with CFX for the traffic signal at the intersection of State Route 417 and Lee Vista Boulevard, a long-awaited improvement that will enhance safety and mobility for residents in the area. As one of the fastest-growing corridors in Central Florida, this intersection has experienced increasing traffic volumes, making infrastructure investments like this critical to keeping pace with growth. I look forward to the positive impact it will have on reducing congestion, improving traffic flow for everyone who travels through the corridor. And with that, sir, I'd like to move the approval on the consent agenda.
Motion by Commissioner Keene, second by Commissioner Burns. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, and so the motion carries. All right, without objection, we will recess the City Council meeting. We'll convene the CRA meeting. The first item of business 4A is meeting minutes from May 11th for the CRA. Is there a motion? Motion by Commissioner Rose, second by Commissioner Sheehan. All in favor indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. All right, David, you take the rest of those.
Will do. Good afternoon, Mayor, and good afternoon, Commissioners. A couple items before you on the CRA today. Item 4B is an exciting one. Mayor mentioned it in his opening comments, and this is a companion item. Is it on? All right, we got me now? Perfect. I'll start at the beginning. Good afternoon. Just kidding. So 4B, from that aspect, is an exciting one for downtown and for the CRA. Mayor, you mentioned it in your opening comments. This is the ranking for design services for the DTO 2.0 implementation project. So we are actively underway implementing the action plan. We started with Magnolia earlier this year. We're already 60% complete with that, and getting positive feedback from both the businesses as well as customers in that corridor that are starting to utilize some of the two-way traffic, some of the additional parking spaces. But this is for kind of the next round of projects that we'll be working on. It'll be the two-waying of Orange and Roslyn, North Quarter District two-waying, our Magnolia final project, the ultimate vision for Magnolia, as well as Church Street and our Livingston Corner Park. So this authorizes our procurement officer to go ahead and start negotiations with the top-ranked firm, and then the subsequent firms after that. The top-ranked firm was Kimley Horn, who is here today as well, and I'm happy to address any questions.
Motion by Commissioner Rose, second by Commissioner Burns. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, and so the motion carries. 4C.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. 4C, again, DTO Action Plan project, getting ready to move forward. This is the award to Atlantic Civil Corp. For the construction of Church Street, our Phase 1, which is from Garland Avenue all the way to the railroad tracks. This is going to deliver our Festival Street with wider sidewalks, a festival landscape, so they'll be seamless from sidewalk over to the street. We'll have overhead lighting as well, creating a great atmosphere for more activation into that corridor. The lowest bid came in from Atlantic Civil Corp, and it is just over $4 million, and I am happy to address any questions.
Motion by Commissioner Rose. Second by Commissioner Burns. Commissioner Sheehan, and then Commissioner Ortiz.
Yeah, I just want to explain my no vote. I'm just concerned about everything that's happening with this historic preservation and using Church Street as a justification. And so I'm not supportive of doing things that are going to destroy downtown, you know, and things like that. I mean, I think we should make investments that make sense. And so I will be voting no on this today.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just trying to check how many parking spaces we lost from under I-4.
It had, under I originally had about 900 spaces in that context. What are coming back in the final vision is about 300.
So we lose about 600.
Correct.
My concern about this is how this has an impact on now the fees that we're having to increase for parking lots because we're not making enough, we're not generating enough. Therefore, we have to increase the other parking fees. How can we supplement without?
Sure, so they'll be monitored. Basically, it'll be new parking revenue to that extent. This particular item is not addressing that. This is just Church Street from Garland over to the tracks, so it's not the Canopy project area. However, that will be new revenue generation that we haven't had since ultimately the Ultimate I-4 project was started. It was $1 an hour at that given time, but would be coming back under the city's traditional parking system.
We're still losing 600 parking spaces.
It will be, you can look at it that way, Commissioner. You can also look at it as adding 300 more than we have today, in addition to a ride-share drop-off and pickup area.
I went downtown talking to some of the businesses, and one of their concerns is they don't have enough. A lot of customers are not visiting, according to them. I'm not there, because there's not enough parking spaces adjacent enough for them to be able to draw that clientele. So I was just wondering how else can we address this issue?
Absolutely. So as part of our DTO 2.0 component, when we're going and two-waying our streets, like I mentioned on Magnolia, in many of those areas, we're adding parking directly in front of businesses right on the street level. So on Magnolia alone, in our interim project, we're adding about 100 spaces just to that corridor. We'll do the same on Orange and Roslyn, everywhere appropriate. So we're going to be increasing inventory of publicly available spaces significantly.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Further discussion, hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed?
No?
And so it carries. Okay, 4D.
4D, Mayor, this is the final item before the CRA today. This is Budget Amendment 1 for fiscal year 25-26. So earlier this year, we had the approval to move forward with our bond issuance to go ahead and take on our DTO action plan items. This is now taking those bond proceeds and putting them into the appropriate projects that are associated with that. They're projects like the Canopy, 30 South Orange, our Lake Eola Gateway, the two-way of Roslyn, as well as Orange, our North Quarter two-way conversion, the Lake Eola Master Plan, as well as Church Street. In addition to that, there is a $650,000 shift from our business retention, well, going into business retention and recruitment and moving from our CRA real estate fund. And I'm happy to address any questions.
Questions? Motion?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Chapin. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, and so the motion carries. Further business, David?
There is not.
Then, as the CRA, will stand adjourned, and we will convene the OPEB Board of Directors, and we have 2 items to discuss as the Board of Trustees for the OPEB Trust Fund. First item, OPEB's investment consultant has recommended minor adjustments to the asset allocation of the fund and additional investments in private equity, private debt, and the real estate sectors with the hiring of 3 new managers. This recommendation has been reviewed and approved by both the Investment Committee and the Finance Committee, and now is before us for final approval. Do I have a motion to?
moved.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Chapin, second by Commissioner Sheehan. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, and so the motion carries. Second item is approval of the updated OPEB investment policy to incorporate the changes that we just voted on and other changes relating to Florida State Law, Chapter 112. Once again, this recommendation has been reviewed and approved by both the Investment Committee and the Finance Committee. Is there a motion? Motion by Commissioner Chapin.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Burns. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, and so the motion carries. There's no further business to come before the OPEB Board of Trustees, so we will, without objection, adjourn that meeting, and we will reconvene the City Commission meeting. It brings us to hearings, ordinances on first read. Madam Clerk, would you read ordinance 2026-14?
2026-14, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, amending the city's adopted growth management plan to update Figure C8 entitled Urbanized Disturbed Lands to correct a mapping error, providing for conflicts, severability, correction of scrivener's errors, and an effective date.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Rose, second by Commissioner Sheehan. We have one request for a public appearance, Lawana Gelzer.
I had the map. I wish I had saw you earlier so you could show it to the people, what is getting ready to happen to this. LaWanda Gelzer, 815 Hill Street. You know, I'm looking at this dense map. I'm looking at what's going on. I'm looking at what you're proposing to do. And I'm looking at there's nothing in place to protect those who are there. So my question to you is, what procedures, how did you make this mistake? First of all, mapping wise, and then you expanded it more than what it's supposed to be to me. When you do real dense construction and development, it causes problems when you don't put sustainable and things in place. So whether y'all realize it or not, I invited you all last Thursday to our presentation from the EPA grant that we received. And we're studying the air quality and we're looking now at the water quality. See, we're not just saying it, we're collecting the data. And what I'm saying, when you put so much density in building and you don't put the right things in place, what it does is bring harm to those individuals in the community. And the harm is health related. And so I'm not saying, yes, I am. Enough is enough. When you continue to change growth management, development, whatever you want to call it, it does harm to businesses, homeowners, people who live in the community, because you don't track that information. We do now, because we had no alternative but to track it. And the reason why we're tracking it, because you're not putting our health and our well-being first. You're putting special interest groups and development. And so I just have a problem with you. First, you made a mistake. Now I'm looking at it, and you have nothing in place to make it better for the community. And you say it's about economic development, that's what it falls under. It's just giving a road path for everybody to continue to do what they want to do, increase traffic in these communities. All you're going to do is keep building more roads in these communities, which harms our air. It just shows you don't care by your actions what you're doing. You could do a better job. If I saw you planting the right type of trees or anything, I would say, oh, great. I'll be with you. We've given lists of what trees you need to plant in these communities. We've done all kinds of things to make it better. We have tried our best to give you the best solutions possible to make it where we are working together and not against each other. So I know you're going to go ahead and do this, but you didn't put things in place to protect the community when you allow more development in these communities. Thank you. I'm going to go around side.
Discussion?
On top of you. Okay.
Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, so the motion carries. Okay, let's move to hearings, ordinances on second reading, 12A.
Ordinance number 2026-8, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, relating to solid waste management, amending Chapter 28, Article 2, entitled Solid Waste Collection and Disposal to revise collection and disposal fees and rates for residential and commercial premises, providing for severability, codification, correction of scrivener's errors, and an effective date.
Motion by Commissioner Sheehan,
Second.
second by Commissioner Burns. All right, we have one request for public appearance, Luana Gelzer.
Okay, solid waste. I was here earlier today when we talked about maybe the proposed property tax and everything was going to happen. And we were talking about we might have to increase fees. Fees. And this right here is a rate increase already before budget time coming. And it might be something you had planned to do already, but I recall that we used to have our trash picked up twice a week and then recycling once a week. We went down to 1 day a week to pick up and recycle, but our fees went up. So you're charging me more for services. And now you're getting ready to charge me more for an increase in services. I know gas prices are high. I know everything is high, but based on what might happen in November with the vote, I'm concerned will I see more fees. If I'm beginning to see rate increases already, I'm concerned about can I afford to live? Well, actually I can. I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking about citizens. Well, we have to make that decision how we're going to be able to afford services in our community. So right now, budget will be coming through. We're getting ready to see things, and you're proposing to increase our rate and all the way up to 2030, 2026. We gradually see increases. All I'm saying is, if you're increasing, I didn't see if you was going to give me better service or he was going to reduce my services. All I saw was another rate increase, and I'm very concerned as a taxpayer, as a person who has said over and over again, it took 40 years to pave my road. It might not be related, but the services that I've been paying for over the years, I've never received. Still today, I don't have sidewalks. You can say I should not have them, but the bottom line is you never came and did a study. And 40 years to pave a road is ridiculous. So I'm beginning to see increases in services, but I have not received the services I paid for over these years, all of these years. It's ridiculous. Thank you.
All right, that's all the public comment we have. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, and so the motion carries. 12B, Madam Clerk.
Ordinance number 2026-9, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, amending Chapter 39 of the City Code regarding parking by amending the hours and days of operation for parking, civil penalties for parking violations, delinquent fees, and immobilization device removal and replacement fees, providing legislative findings and for severability, codification, correction of scrivener's errors, and an effective date.
Okay, do I have a motion? Motion by Commissioner Sheehan,
Second.
second by Commissioner Chapin. We have one request for public input. Michael Sarah. Going once, going twice. Okay, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the motion carries. Okay, 12C.
Ordinance number 2026-10, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, relating to regulation of sewer use, amending Chapter 30 entitled Regulation of Sewer Use and Rates to revise wastewater treatment rates and fees, providing for severability, codification, correction of scrivener's errors, and an effective date.
Motion by Commissioner Sheehan,
Second.
second by Commissioner Chapin. Have no request for public comment, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, and so the motion carries. All right, let's move on to ordinances on first reading, number 1, or 13A.
Ordinance number 2026-11, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, annexing to the corporate limits of the city certain land generally located north of Corin Drive, east of Janice Avenue, south of Marble Avenue, and west of East Winter Park Road, and comprised of 0.22 acres of land, more or less, providing for severability, correction of scrivener's errors, and an effective date.
Move approval.
Motion by Commissioner Chapin, second by Commissioner Sheehan. We have no request for public input, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, and so the motion carries. 13B, Madam Clerk.
Ordinance number 2026-12, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, amending the city's growth management plan, designating certain land generally located north of Corin Drive, east of Janice Avenue, south of Marble Avenue, and west of East Winter Park Road as neighborhood activity center on the city's official land use maps, and designating the property as neighborhood activity center of the city's official zoning maps, providing for amendment of the city's official future land use and zoning maps, providing for severability, correction of scrivener's errors, permit disclaimer, and an effective date.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Chapin, second by Commissioner Sheehan. We have no request for public participation, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, and so the motion carries. 13C.
Ordinance number 2026-13, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, relating to a street name change renaming Alexander Place, which is depicted and referenced in the plat Creative Village Phase 3, according to the plat thereof, as recorded in Plat Book 109, page 2 of the Public Records of Orange County, Florida, generally located between North Huey Avenue and Chatham Avenue to George Stewart Place, directing amendments to the official maps of the City of Orlando, Florida, providing for severability, correction of scrivener's errors, and an effective date.
Motion by Commissioner Rose, second by Commissioner Sheehan. I have no request for public participation, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, and so the motion carries. 13D.
Ordinance number 2026-15, an ordinance of the City of Orlando, Florida, amending the land development regulations for a portion of the Fern Grove 2 Senior Housing Plan Development Zoning District, which is generally located north of West Colonial Drive, east of Mercy Drive, south of W.D. Judge Drive, and west of Ferguson Drive, and comprised of approximately 9.9 acres of land, providing for severability, correction of scrivener's errors, permit disclaimer, and an effective date.
Motion by Commissioner Rose, second by Commissioner Sheehan. I have no request for public comment. Discussion, hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Okay, 13E.
Ordinance number 2026-18, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, relating to the Downtown Historic Preservation Overlay District, imposing a temporary moratorium for the 36 months on the requirements, processing, and consideration of certificates of appropriateness prior to the erection, alteration, restoration, or demolition of exempt historic landmarks or structures within the Downtown Historic Preservation Overlay District, adopting findings of fact, providing for extension or early termination of the temporary moratorium and procedures, providing legislative findings, and for severability, correction of scrivener errors, and an effective date.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Rose, second by Commissioner Chapin. Let's see, we do have a few requests. Let's actually have a presentation first. Okay, we're going to have David Barilla, our Director of DDB, and our city's planning official, Jason Burton, give us some background on this ordinance.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to put our presentation up here. See if we can get it. Can you plop it on the screen? We good? All right, there we are. All right, good afternoon again. Thank you, Mayor, and good afternoon, Commissioners. Wanted to talk to you a little bit about some of the exciting investments that are actively in progress in our downtown right now, and some of the observations and feedback we receive from the community and our property owners, as well as our businesses. So as I mentioned, it's an exciting time for downtown. We have not had this amount of public activity in downtown, I think, in any time that I can remember. It is all guided by a number of the components that we talked about today already. Our DTO action plan, which, as you know, was vision-driven, it was research-based, all focused on providing a set of actions of how we can create a downtown that's vibrant, create a downtown that is competitive, and be long-standing in that context for years to come. What that has put us in is in the midst of one of the largest coordinated improvement projects in the history of downtown Orlando. You'll see some of the images on this slide before you and recognize some of the projects that are underway right now. So we have the canopy, which is the area just under Interstate 4 that connects to Church Street and then goes all the way up to the Central and Washington area. You see there the Lake Eola Gateway at the heart of our downtown, and will now be the main entrance to our cherished park, Lake Eola. Art Squared there in our lower left, which is a new great spot, hosted some great Magic watch games just I guess a few weeks ago to that extent. A great place for the community to come together and experience not only great local food, but just time with their friends and their loved ones, and the immense undertaking of really reconstructing Lake Eola in and of itself with our Lake Eola master plan. In addition to that, there's a number of other projects that are actively underway with your support. Just today, our two-waying of Orange and Roslyn, our Festival Street, which we talked about a little bit, as well as One North Orange, which I will share a little bit more on later. As we have done that in our public sector improvements, we have also seen some immense private investment in downtown over the past 15 years. Our downtown has continued to grow, and we couldn't be prouder of some of the projects that have been delivered. To highlight some of them, you see here up in the upper left, that's Truist Plaza, our newest office tower, really right across the street from where we are today. On the right, that's the Society, so a great new project right across the street from the courthouse on Orange Avenue. Then you see Modera Creative Village on the lower left, and MAA Robinson on the lower right. In addition to that, our EA Sports headquarters in Creative Village up there on the left, Ridley on Main on the right, that's just south of us here, right by our Lake Lucerne area. City Tower down in our South Eola area, and then the GAI building coming in on our Thornton Park neighborhood. And then kind of the final slide I wanted to show on projects, even though it is not all of our projects, is this one, because we have Camden in Thornton Park up there on the left. We have the Julian in the upper right, that's in our Creative Village area. Our Radius apartment tower, which is just north of our tremendous Lake Eola. And then in the bottom right, our Union West at Creative Village. So as you can see, it's an immense amount of investment that we've had going on over the past 15 years. And if you look at this map, it kind of places it all for us. So the yellow on this map depicts over 20 different investments that have been over $5 million in the past 15 years. The pink is the public investment that we're making right now that I highlighted with our DTO action plan. And then the green is our DTO historic district. So as we can see, our public investment is coming right through the core of our downtown. You see that big spot on the left with the canopy. You see the two wing of Orange and Roslyn, as well as Magnolia, which I highlighted, Church Street, which will be getting started here in the coming weeks, and then the Lake Eola Park. And then you start to notice how the yellow areas, that private investment, has really kind of looked to enhance the core all around. We see everything going up from the northern side on the left, which is where Creative Village is. You can kind of place yourself with the lake dot. You move south throughout Paramore, and you see a number of other components. And then when you look to the right, you can kind of place yourself with Lake Eola, and you see things really starting up even in our North Quarter area, moving all the way down Orange Avenue, and even in our South Eola area. But when you look into the core, into that historic district that we have, the green area, you'll notice that there is not any yellow in that area because we have not seen the private investment been able to move in to the core of our downtown to this point. So we started and are always listening to constituents and our businesses, as well as the number of different stakeholders that we have. And when we talk to the community, we hear a lot of the great things that really align well with the DTO action plan. We hear they want downtown and its core to have more investment. We hear that they want it to have more activity. We hear that they want it to be more vibrant than it is today. The building that you see here on the right is on Church Street. You may recognize it. It's just next to our 55 West building that is there. But we can see the context that has happened in a lot of our areas of downtown. And when we bring the community's desire to a lot of our property owners and our business owners to try and help get them to a place where they can help activate the corridor and create that vibrancy and create that activity that everyone desires, we hear what has potentially been some of the barriers that they haven't been able to deliver just yet. One of those components is what we're considering today. It really locks itself around the unpredictability of what they would be able to do in these various buildings. And as much as we want to preserve them to the best extent possible, they are best preserved when they are active, when they are vibrant, and when they are being utilized. So over the past decade in our downtown core, and we've seen that the number of residential units, though it has nearly doubled in our downtown, in our core, it has been unchanged. We've also seen some office space been shifting there, which has decreased a bit, and we are actively looking to be able to enhance that. We are now investing, with your approval, over $220 million in this area, and we wanted to make sure we took on everything that we could do. All of the public space, for the most part, that is within our control. We wanted to make sure we made those right investments. But the return on investment to that extent, the bang for the buck, so to speak, is when the private sector can come along with us and then start to improve the things that we don't control. So some of those projects that we're actively working on that, again, are in the historic district are before you on this slide. We're in design right now in that upper left park there, which is in the core of our historic district, right at Pine and Orange, bringing a great respite area to the core of our downtown. You see up on the right, that is kind of the concept drawing for what our Orange Avenue and Roslyn Avenue will be. Commissioner Ortiz, you see the on-street parking there on both sides of the street in that context that you mentioned before. In the lower left, that is Church Street, which we will be breaking ground on here in just the coming weeks with wider sidewalks. You see that overhead lighting, the seamless transition between the roadway as well as the pedestrian and vehicular areas. And then the project on the right, which is One North Orange, which I really think is a testament to what we are discussing today. This is a historic building. It's in the historic district. And it has sat vacant and unutilized and deteriorating for approximately 20 years. The county was the last real owner of it. The two owners after Orange County, from that perspective, were developers that tried to activate that building. They tried to redevelop that building. It was unsuccessful. The CRA, with your approval, was able, luckily, to step in and purchase it. And later this month, we'll be releasing that to the open market, obviously with the right structures behind it, to deliver a great adaptive reuse that will preserve that historic building and reintroduce it to downtown. The challenge is we don't have the ability to do that with every building in our core. We really need to make sure that as we take on what we can do and want to come along the private sector to activate buildings, that they can come alongside us as well and make the investments that we need to really achieve that vibrancy as well as achieve the level of activity and atmosphere that goes beyond us just, as I call it, setting the table and improving the public space in downtown. So now I'll turn it over to Jason Burton, the city's planning director, to talk about some of the mechanisms on the proposal.
Good afternoon, Commissioners and Mr. Mayor. So I like Mr. Ortiz, Commissioner Ortiz, have a little bit of a raspy voice, so we'll get through this together. Just to let you know, I want to go a little bit over the processes that are being proposed for this particular item and giving a little bit of additional context about the growth management plan and what the proposal is before you today. Just to let you know, Orlando, of course, is the central city within the Central Florida region. We're expected to grow tremendously until 2050, and I think since I've been here working for the city, we've grown over 100,000 people. Our strategy in our growth management plan is to encourage urban infill, development, and redevelopment within mixed-use activity centers, of which downtown really is the center and most dense of all the activity centers that we have in the city. In fact, it might be twice as dense as any of the development rights that we have in any other activity center with the city. As such, what we wanted to do is we really want to encourage mixed-use development in that context so that you can accommodate the anticipated growth that we really need to do to make our city successful, and that establishes the protection of our surrounding neighborhood districts, which are protected when we choose to do urban infill and walkable activity centers. So urban infill is also the most efficient pattern because you don't have to rebuild roads, and you can enhance existing infrastructure as well in order to make sure that people can live at the center and actually have the choice of not having to use an automobile or be able to get around by having an active downtown. This is a map showing our actual downtown activity center. And as you know, we have the highest concentration. Our by right intensities and densities within the downtown are 200 units per acre and 4.0 FAR. With bonuses, you can go up to 9.0 FAR and 400 dwelling units to the acre. You need to get that, those development rights. In order to realize those development rights, a lot of our downtown doesn't meet those requirements of either the by right density or densities with actual development bonuses associated with it. We have a different future land use policies that support our compact urban form, encouraging redevelopment and making sure that we are able to redevelop blighted areas. And we want to also encourage a concentrated urban form in order to accommodate this projected resident population that would be increasing all the way to 2050. We also want to strengthen and diversify our local economy and expand our local tax base and stimulate job creation. Just to let you know, this slide just shows a little bit of the different types of uses that are associated with the downtown historic district as it sits today. Commercial development is approximately around 2.0 FAR with the 1 and 2 and sometimes 3-story buildings that are within the downtown historic district. It's at 50% of the by right intensity whereas density, which is usually an aspect of how much residential development you have in a particular area, we're at 15% and was supported only by the recent improvements for the Solaire and the 55 West. Also inside of that particular district, you have a significant amount of vacant commercial buildings, a significant amount of bars and nightclubs. As you can see, nearly 20% of the area is actually done with nightclubs and bars. We do have government and private offices as well as offices which are shrinking actually in this particular historic district too. Of note here, Orlando has 6 different historic districts. Or downtown Orlando is the one in red that you see that has the downtown historic district, and the periphery of our downtown is lined by wonderful historic districts. Now, when you go to the Historic Preservation Office and you're trying to improve a property, you're required to get what's called a certificate of appropriateness from either the Historic Preservation Board for a major review or for a minor review from the Historic Preservation Office for themselves. Now, those historic districts that are surrounding the downtown, they are flourishing with redevelopment, either with infill of vacant properties, expansions of contributing structures, or remodeling of the interiors of the buildings themselves, or adding accessory dwelling units and whatnot like that. We're primarily looking at the concentrated commercial downtown historic district. Another thing that I would mention is that it's really unique that there are really no similar mid-sized cities within the United States that has a historic district that is essentially at the main of your downtown, your central business district. There are some exceptions to that. For example, Savannah, which is not quite a similar type of city, has a humongous historic district that incorporates all the downtown and the surrounding neighborhoods with thousands and thousands of buildings. But if you look at our similar types of cities, whether it's Fort Lauderdale, St. Petersburg, Charlotte, Nashville, Austin, none of them will have a historic district at the exact center of the downtown. One thing about the historic preservation process is it reviews all the exterior changes to structures within the historic districts. And like I said, a certificate of appropriateness is required by the historic preservation offices. They utilize the national standards for the Secretary of the Interior for historic preservation. And as I mentioned, major reviews typically include things like new buildings, additions, demolitions. And also recently, I think in the last few years, we've only seen major modifications for remodeling the facades of buildings that have gone before the Historic Preservation Board. But what happens is that projects that are proposed to do major expansions of buildings don't make it past the pre-application stage with our Historic Preservation Office because they don't really meet the interior standards and don't have any support by staff. Minor review projects are signs, windows, re-roofs, and other projects that do not have an impact on the overall building itself, but are additions, if you will, to those buildings that are minor in nature. So what's proposed here is an alternative review process to pause on the need for a certificate of appropriateness from the Historic Preservation Office. As a result, those projects will be reviewed by the Appearance Review Board, and they'll have the responsibility for looking at those projects for a period of 36 months. They utilize different standards than those national historic preservation standards. They use the downtown design guidelines, which are based on good urban design principles, but not the more restrictive historic preservation standards that are national standards and are much more discretionary, if you will. Of note, permits for the demolition of buildings still will require a staff-level historic preservation review and approval of demolition cannot occur until a new replacement project is proposed for a particular site. And you might ask, well, what happens during that particular review? Well, there's really 3 things that happen during that review. Number 1 is if there are any other types of historic fabric that are incorporated into a new project, that whatever agreements that the city has done, that historic fabric has been appropriately incorporated into any type of a replacement project, or if a project is demolished or a potential building is demolished, that it's adequately documented and photographed. And third, it's a final check to make sure that the proper permits are in place to ensure that a building doesn't come down without a replacement project. Now, the Appearance Review Board, like I mentioned, they're used to doing all the different projects outside of the Central Commercial District, the Central Historic Preservation Commercial District in the downtown. So they obviously, a lot of those buildings that Mr. Barilla showed you, they've been the ones that have reviewed those particular ones, and they're based on the downtown design guidelines. And as I mentioned, they don't use the Secretary of the Interior standards for historic preservation, and they do similar types of major and minor reviews. Of note, I wanted to mention this, that there are 9 locally designated historic landmarks within the Downtown Historic District, and there's also 1 building that is a National Register historic landmark, the Tinker Building. But one of the reasons why the Historic Preservation District, the Central District, was made in 1980 is there was a high concentration of historic landmarks in this particular district. In fact, there's 7 of these particular buildings that are on Church Street themselves. And an example of one would be like the Crest Building. These were all done with separate ordinances to that 1980 designation of the Downtown Historic District, and they're subject to separate ordinances. As a result, the proposed ordinance before you today has an opt-in procedure where they must inform the planning official in order to take advantage of the ordinance before you today. And just to note, this is the Downtown Historic District. To zoom in on it a little bit more, it goes from the Dollive Building, where the Anthem nightclub is, and the old historic courthouse, goes through Orange Avenue, Magnolia Avenue, down to Church Street, and even a portion of the former, the former Amory Center, I forget what it's called, the Kia Center these days. There used to be a contributing structure that was on that site that was demolished to make way for it, and that's one of the reasons why a portion of that historic district is over at the Kia Center today. But you can see that concentration of 7 historic landmarks that are on Church Street themselves. The Crest Building, the Hunt Brianna Building, the Nicholson Coiler Building, the old depot, Bumby Hardware Building, where Hamburger Mary's used to be, Slimmon's Department Store, the Rogers Keene Building, Beecham Theater Building are off. Those 2 last ones are both off of Church Street, the Beecham Theater Building up on North Orange Avenue, and of course the City Arts Factory is at the Rogers Keene Building. The First National Bank is the former Walgreens. It's on the corner as well. Of note, the CRA is looking to create a program to incentivize the renovation and restoration of historic structures, both contributing and landmarks within the Downtown Historic District. The idea is that if they incorporate historic fabric into its redevelopment, a program will be developed and be brought back to the CRA board, which is you, but it needs to go to the CRA advisory board, should we proceed, that if you incorporate some historic fabric into a project, you might be eligible for 50 to 75% property tax refund for a period of 10 years. That coincides with the expiration of the CRA itself in order to finance that. So some of the criteria would be, is it located within this Downtown Historic District, and does it preserve architecturally significant elements of the buildings themselves? It doesn't restrict them from not expanding, though, because they could take advantage of the ordinance before you today as part of this proposal. The desired outcomes is to balance historic preservation with economic development, encourage the redevelopment of properties significantly that have gone into more vacancy and abandonment over the years, encourage a broad reuse of these properties and hopeful adaptive reuse of these particular properties themselves. It also allows the property owners to realize the large AC3A zoning, which has those development rights that are associated with it at 400 units to the acre and 4.0, 200 units to the acre and 4.0 FAR, and double that, and sometimes even more than double that for the FAR for development bonuses. And then also, it coincides with the investments of over $200 million to see if we can get an induced private sector investment in our downtown, as the public sector is also investing in our downtown simultaneously. The idea is to study the effects of the redevelopment on this particular stimulus in the downtown core and determine whether a permanent change is necessary or unnecessary after a period of 3 years to see what the experience is. It could be that we reinstate the historic district, it could be that we come up with a different regulation, or it could be that the historic preservation district could be abandoned potentially in the downtown at the end of that 3-year period of time. But it would be up to the council to give direction as to what would happen. And of course, we as staff would track development over that time, and you'll probably be seeing that as part of the Senate programs that would be coming before the CRA board themselves. Just to go over the proposed timeline, the next step today is the ordinance in first reading, and I'm sure you'll be hearing from lots of concerned citizens about this proposed, because it is a major change to policy. And of course, the second reading potentially could be, depending on your direction, would be this second reading would be on June 22nd. And as I mentioned, those consideration of the incentive program will be going to the July CRA advisory board and would be brought before you in August as a CRA board, or the city council sitting as a CRA board. And with that, David and I are both available for questions should you have any.
Okay, are there questions for David or Jason? Mr. Sheehan?
Okay, I'm going to hold my comments till the public speaks, but I did have a question about this map that says public and private investments. Basically, this map says that no redevelopment is happening within the historic core. Where is 55 West on this map?
55 West is on Church Street, so if I go and zoom into the actual building itself,
Right.
and that's from the last 15 years, obviously, but
But that's it, but that happened within the historic district. That's the point I'm trying to make. This map does not indicate developments that have happened within the historic district, that has happened within the historic district, because
So-
55 West was in the historic district.
Yeah, 55 West is partially within the historic district, so if you see my cursor, this is the building just left to number 3, the Nicholson Coiler building.
Yeah.
The old Antigua building, that's within the historic district, and that accounts for the 15% potential of residential density that's allowed in that particular area.
But what I'm saying is the map does not reflect the fact that there have been developments within the historic district.
It's
So-
the 15 years, Commissioner. 55 West was delivered prior to 15 years ago. So this
Well,
looked at
but
15.
this map is misleading because the historic district has been there for a long time. So basically what you're saying is you're only doing the last 15 years because you don't want to reflect the fact that there was redevelopment within the historic district. That's my point.
Entire development in downtown over the last 15
Okay,
years.
concede that in the last 25 years, there's been one development.
And Solaire is
Solaire.
adjacent, all right?
And the plaza, correct.
All right, now, okay, so does this reflect any of the substantial renovations, like the Angie-Built? That's a very successful building, they redid their first floor. This doesn't show any of the substantial redevelopment that's happened in the historic building.
Yeah, we're talking about the potential to expand different properties, certainly, and it's not, I mean, David, there are things that have been obviously remodeled inside of the historic district, but not to the extent that it needs to be to have a successful
Well, but that's my point. I mean, we're not actually showing the investments that have happened within the historic district. My problem is this map is misleading because it makes you think that there has been no redevelopment and no new projects and no investment within the historic district, when that's just not the case.
In the context of what you're saying, Commissioner, the projects that you're mentioning are accurate. They have happened.
Yes.
The context for what was delivered on the map follows what we do, something with the CRA's major development profile, where we track investments, large investments that are $5 million or more. So that's the source of this to that extent.
this
But those
doesn't
projects
say
did
within the
happen.
past
They
15.
just didn't meet that criteria for that.
But it doesn't say within the past 15 years. It doesn't, it's not clear. It just makes it look like there's been absolutely no redevelopment and no investment within the historic district. And my contention is that's just not true. So I'll just leave that at there. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, any further questions? Commissioner Chapin?
Why 3 years? Why not 2? Why not 5? What's the magic number with 3?
This is a temporary moratorium. I know we don't like that word necessarily, but in order to act on a moratorium, it has to be temporary. And 3 years tends to be the upper echelons of being something that's temporary. In order to also effectuate a development project, it might take you a year to get an actual development team together, get through the actual entitlement and permitting process, and then get to actually start a project. So it wouldn't be fair to do it for, let's say, a year's worth of time, because that's not a realistic time frame in which to execute a project. So the idea is that, and without getting rid of the historic district, you could put it aside, if you will, for a period of time, have alternative standards, and review that, and then review its effectiveness after 3 years.
Thank you.
Commissioner Ortiz and Commissioner Rose.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for that presentation, Jason. Something I wanted to expand and ask, because I met with some of those owners of properties, and a common complaint was that it was almost impossible to revitalize some of these buildings because it's so expensive to meet the criteria stipulated by the historic national system district or whatnot. So, for example, I was even asking about one of the most popular ones that we talk about, it is the Beecham Club. And the Beecham Club, for a lot of people that don't know, when it used to belong to a gentleman of the last name, Mr. Juarez. Back in the days, in the 1980s, they were going to demolish that building. And he was the actual owner now who saved it, because he wanted to maintain the historic value. But it's costing him an arm and a leg to maintain that building, because it's really expensive, it's old. So a lot of these investments being proposed is also to revitalize some of the things. But there's so many minute and so many particular requirements that it's almost impossible to meet the standards. So when we talk about this, I said, what do you think about this particular moratorium? He said, it's Christmas. It's Christmas time, because we'll be able to do things that we have not been able to do in the past because of these particulars that we have to meet, these requirements that we have to meet in order to meet the criteria of the historic. So there's a lot of people who have been really waiting for this, especially owners of some of these buildings.
The only thing I would respond is that typically the national standards for historic preservation by the Secretary of Interior are meant for the rehabilitation and restoration of historic buildings. And obviously people that might want to do something different to actualize some of their development rights, it puts a little bit of a damper on what they can do, because not only is it very discretionary how you interpret it, but let's say if you want to expand a building, you don't want to actually see it from the street, if you will. So it makes it very difficult to expand and realize your development rights in the middle of a downtown. Yeah. Because you'll meet with the staff, they'll say, well, if I can see the expansion from across the street, that's not appropriate to the mass scale materials or whatever have you of a particular project itself.
Something I've noticed is, because I've been inside the, Mercantile Bank on the corner of, I think it's Pine and Orange. Not quite certain if that's the exact address, but first floor is a bank, and then you have second floor, third floor. But to go up, that building is really narrow, it's really uncomfortable. The stairwells are really narrow. So they don't really meet the criteria of today's standards in order for disabled people and for other criteria that we have to deal with in this day and age. And I'm not saying I love the historic part of it, because I think it adds value to our city in so many ways. But at the same time, how do we make it where we can find a common ground so we can still also bring it up to date, so modern technology or modern needs, let's put it that way, because wheelchairs now are not the same ones they used to be or whatnot, where those buildings can meet the criteria, while we meet the standards of the National Historic Society or whatnot. So I think there's in many ways we have to take a look, and I'm glad that we're looking at this, because we have to review all these standards that have been established in the past.
Commissioner,
Am I helping you?
perhaps, I don't know if there's a question in there, but
There's no
certainly.
question. I'm just-
The
I'm
idea
just
is that
stating.
there would be a balance between both economic development and historic
Yeah.
preservation with the addition of the potential incentive program to retain historic fabric in projects that incorporate
No,
such.
there's no question. I'm trying to state that the current needs that we have in order to be able to make these buildings sustainable, to today's standards, while maintaining, preserving some value, so. Thank you.
Commissioner Rose.
So a couple things. As the commissioner who represents the core of downtown, it is my responsibility to ensure we can meet the needs of current property owners, stakeholders, as well as futures who are looking to invest in our downtown. As you look at the map, there's a lot of private investment happening outside of the historic district. And when you talk to developers and builders who want to come into downtown, there is a lack of opportunities within the historic district. So creating the opportunity for us to do economic development and long-term sustainability is important. We've got to redevelop a lot of the buildings. We're a growing, evolving downtown, and if we want to evolve and continue to evolve and grow and bring new opportunities into our city, we've got to change with the times, and we've got to hear from the people who have the funding to come into our communities. This isn't forever. The policy allows for us to stop at any point when we want to. Am I correct, Jason?
Yes, the council at its discretion could suspend the moratorium, if you will.
Okay.
And reverse it if you want. If you, after a year or two, there's a provision, I think it's section 5, in the actual ordinance itself that allows the council to act.
Okay, but we've got to continue to create adaptive reuse of the properties that are existing. There's a lot of empty buildings, a lot of dormant buildings, and we are better than that here in the city of Orlando. We are better than that downtown, and so we've got to actually hear from the people and continue to serve the people that elected us to do the right thing, and that's create opportunities for economic development here in downtown.
Okay, we have quite a few people who would like to weigh in on this. So for those of you who have not testified before council before, when your name is called, and I'll call 3 or so that you're aware you're in the queue, come up, state your name and your address, and you'll have 3 minutes to address council. So the first 3 are Tim Giuliani, Craig Usler, and Keno Martinez. Don't run, Tim. So
I took the long way. I thought Craig would just jump in. No, thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. Tim Giuliani, 200 South Orange Avenue, Orlando, Florida, 32801. I'm here to speak in support of the temporary suspension of the Historic Planning Board review of development in an economically critical area of the Central Business District. The Orlando Economic Partnership fully supports the city's efforts to strengthen our downtown and promote economic development. And we want to commend you for the important investments you're making that were described earlier by David. This will have a positive impact on restaurants, retail, and other small businesses downtown. And the Canopy Project will also help downtown to be more welcoming and improve connectivity between east and west downtown. But as we all know, development in the heart of downtown has stalled, and it's hindering our downtown from reaching its full potential. The Downtown Historic District is a small area, but extremely important to economic development, not just in downtown, but for the entire region. The proposed temporary suspension will help spur development in the Central Business District and have a positive impact on corporate recruitment as well as residential housing development. And we encourage you to support this important ordinance. We certainly value our partnership with the city and look forward to supporting you as you take efforts to improve our downtown. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Craig Usler, Keno Martinez, David Martins.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. Craig Usler, 800 North Orange Avenue. Suite 200, Orlando 32801. This is a tough issue, to be honest with you. It's not, I'm speaking as an Orlandoan and as a developer. It's two different things. I love Orlando. I've spent the past 25 years of my career investing in building projects only in downtown Orlando because I do it for the betterment of our town, of our hometown, my hometown, and our city. And I don't take that responsibility lightly. I could build anywhere I want to, and I choose to build in Orlando. My two favorite buildings in downtown Orlando are the Crest Building and the First National Bank Building, the Chicone Building. My grandfather's building is the First National Bank Building in downtown Orlando. I respect the historical context of our city. Another one of my favorite buildings is the Dr. Phillips Performing Arts Center, brand new building. Great cities have great old buildings and great new buildings. It's not one or the other. The Historic Preservation Board itself is kind of a victim of these overly restrictive standards it is charged to implement, if that makes sense. I think the motivations of the people that serve on that board and that board itself are noble and important to our city, right? I think historic preservation districts in Lake Eola and Lake Eola Heights and all that stuff are wonderful neighborhoods and make our city better. So it's just a weird issue where everybody's well-intentioned. I respect everybody's opinion, but I do think we got to kind of get a pendulum, a balance here between economic development and historic context. And I applaud the city for trying to do something. It's heartbreaking, honestly, to see the vacancy and underutilization of a lot of the properties downtown. I'm trying to every day to do my part to make it better, and I think we can get some momentum here through this action. And I really hope that's the outcome. I mean, it's really just one of those things. It's not a silver bullet. It's not. I mean, I don't want anybody to think this is like, oh my God, it just turns on. The real estate development business is kind of like turning a barge. I mean, it's not the easiest thing to kickstart it, but this is the right thing to do, in my opinion, and we should try it. And I think it's a reasonable and thoughtful approach to trying to make something better. And I want our town and our downtown to be better. So I'd appreciate your support. Thanks.
Thank you, Craig. Keno Martinez, David Martins, Jeffrey Thompson.
All right. Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. Keno Martinez, 215 North Eola Drive, Orlando 32801. I'm here in support of Ordinance 2026-18, a 3-year moratorium on obtaining a certificate of appropriateness from the HPB. That would be a meaningful acceleration tool for downtown redevelopment, but it should be understood as a targeted procedural pause, not a repeal of preservation policy. I want to talk to you about how avoiding the review could spur downtown Orlando development. First, it reduces entitlement uncertainty. The HPB process creates an additional discretionary layer for adaptive reuse, facade work, additions, and new construction that uncertainty affects underwriting. Removing or pausing that layer for the downtown historic district could shorten timelines and make downtown projects easier to finance. Second, it makes older buildings easier to reuse. Many downtown buildings are not economically obsolete because they lack value. They are obsolete because the cost, time, and risk of reuse are too high. A temporary pause could encourage owners to renovate vacant or underused buildings, especially if review is redirected through predictable downtown development standards. Third, it can attract earlier private capital. Capital follows certainty. A 3-year window creates urgency. Owners, developers, and tenants know there's a temporary period in which projects may move faster. That could accelerate reinvestment decisions that would otherwise remain parked. Fourth, it supports restaurant, retail, and office recruitment. Restaurants and retailers need activated streets and improved building stock. Office users need modernized buildings and amenity-rich environments. If the moratorium helps bring vacant or underused downtown properties back into productive use, it can improve the core downtown environment that premium tenants require. And finally, fifth, it can reinforce Orlando's existing downtown development strategy. Orlando is already advancing district-scale projects such as Creative Village, Westcourt, and the Packing District. A targeted moratorium could complement that strategy by improving the smaller-scale building fabric between major projects, filling gaps, activating storefronts, and reducing dead zones. I would just note that the proposal represents a thoughtful balance between preservation and revitalization, and I think the 36-month timeframe is a measured and responsible approach that allows the city to evaluate results before considering any further changes. Thank you.
Thank you. David Martins, Jeffrey Thompson, Tim Hayes.
Hello, my name is David Martins, and I live at 229 East Amelia Street, Orlando, Florida 32801. I oppose the proposed ordinance for the historic downtown district. I would like to share my qualifications because I think to have an opinion, I would like to know where it comes from. My wife and I and a few others started the Lake Eola Heights Historic Neighborhood Association about 40 years ago, and I was the president for the past 19 years. In 2022, Mayor Dyer appointed me as the Neighborhood Champion Award winner for that year because of my achievements as a neighborhood leader and the work I have done to promote our historic neighborhood. I have served on the city's Historic Preservation Board for the past 2 years and count myself as a major advocate for Orlando's history, especially downtown. I am shocked that this is the first since Wednesday that I have heard about this program. Why hasn't the historic community, the Historic Preservation Board, why have we not been engaged to be part of the planning of this redevelopment opportunity? Instead, we've been held in the black, out of it totally. Commissioner Ortiz brought up the fact, it's vital that we have a downtown historic district. It's important. Engage us. Bring us together. But we were ignored, passed over. This is not the way to do good government. Good government's where we work together as a partner. I am willing to work on a board, to work together, and to come up with a solution. This is not a solution. Do you want to be responsible to see the Metcalf building torn down, Church Street Station torn down, the Crest building torn down? Do you want to see that happen? Because of your vote today, you could do that because it's going to bypass historic preservation. Why not engage historic preservation in this plan? Give me a call. Thank you.
Jeffrey Thompson, Tim Hayes, Justin Core.
Good afternoon. My name is Jeff Thompson, and I live at 600 East Amelia Street in the Lake Eola Heights Historic District, and I thank you for your time today. I was born in Orlando and grew up in Seminole County. I moved to downtown after college because of its sense of history. I love the excitement of what then felt to be very urban and sophisticated. This is what preservation is all about, connecting with people, making memorable experiences, and creating that sense of place. I bought my first home in Thornton Park and then later moved to Lake Eola Heights when it became an historic district in 1989 because of the protection and stability it afforded. It was about this time that I first sat on the Historic Preservation Board. I think I may be the longest serving Historic Preservation Board member at 18 years and counting. I was appointed by Mayor Frederick, Mayor Hood, and twice by Mayor Dyer. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. I'm currently serving as the chair of the board, so I must be doing something right. After 18 years on the board, this is the first time I've ever felt compelled to speak here regarding a preservation issue. At the last HPB hearing, the board cast a unanimous vote in opposition to this moratorium, but today I'm speaking on my own behalf. I believe the current ordinance functions well. The city has said lately we're a hindrance to development, but I believe we're pro-development. And remember, as an advisory board to city council, you could override any decision we make. You don't have to base your decisions on the national standards. You can rule in whatever direction you want. What's telling is in the past 5 years, the Historic Preservation Board has not turned down any action that's come before this board from that district. HPB boards have permitted redevelopment over the years. The entire south side of Church Street Station was redeveloped under HPB review. Awnings, balconies, colonnades, covered walkways, even the bridge over Church Street were permitted where previously none had existed. The HPB approved the demolition of the McCroy's Woolworth building. All they asked is that the facades be incorporated into the tower beyond. The developer did not agree, so appealed to City Council, which overturned the decision, as is their duty if they don't think it's right. This project was not a panacea for downtown, though. The developer went bankrupt, the building was foreclosed on, and the theater and many of those retail spaces sit empty. The Orchid Ballroom was demolished 3 years ago for a tower and has sat vacant ever since. And as already pointed out, the Kia Center is even in the district. It's hard for me to accept the argument that HPB does not have flexibility nor permit redevelopment. There were bigger problems downtown. The one-way streets, the incessant cruising down Orange Avenue, the out-of-control bar culture, the weekend street parties where people were shot and killed, and then COVID was the final straw. These are the things that have kept people from downtown, not historic preservation. I applaud the city for addressing many of these items, but they will need time to bear fruit. And new incentives should be provided. All right. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
But I was trying to go out on a high note.
Okay. Tim Hayes, Justin Core, Diane Martins. Tim Hayes, oh, there you are. Okay.
Good afternoon, mayors, commissioners, and staff. My name is Tim Hayes. I live at 711 East Ridgewood Street in Orlando, Florida, Lake Eola Heights. I currently serve as the vice president of the Lake Eola Heights Historic Neighborhood Association, and I'm here today to urge you to vote no on the proposed moratorium on the Downtown Historic Overlay District in downtown. Cities are often judged by what they build next, but cities are also defined by what they choose to keep. As we celebrate 150 years of the City Beautiful, downtown Orlando has grown tremendously, and growth is something we should celebrate. But growth and preservation are not opposing forces. In fact, the most vibrant and desirable cities in America are those that successfully balance both. Historic buildings tell the story of who we are and how we got here. Once they're gone forever. I understand the desire to reduce barriers and encourage investment, but removing historic protections, even via a moratorium altogether, feels a little bit like solving a leaky roof by removing the entire house. The Historic Preservation District is not about preventing progress in history and has shown that the HPB has not been an obstruction to development. We got the Kia Center, 55 West, and even the loved Plaza building, love the theater. Those are all within the district. The HPB is about ensuring that progress respects the character, identity, and heritage that make downtown Orlando unique. Future generations deserve more than photographs of the places that shaped our city, and they deserve the opportunity to experience them firsthand. I respectfully ask you to reject the proposal as written that places a moratorium on the downtown district, and instead work towards solutions that support both responsible development and preservation. Thank you for your time and your service to the community.
Thank you. Justin Core, Diane Martins, Tana Porter.
Council, Justin Core, 236 South Lucerne Circle. I just want to say I agree with Craig wholeheartedly. The development and historic preservation can coexist. The residents of downtown are hungry for a revitalized Church Street with certainty. I think we all agree on that. There are properties on Church Street that could be phenomenal by any city's standards, and they should remain. They should be reinvested in. The whole reason we have these protections in place is to encourage reinvestment. However, this ordinance will certainly incentivize owners of these properties to move towards demolition because it is going to probably make more sense financially. But there's a playbook. You let the building deteriorate, you avoid leasing it, you point to that as a reason to knock it down, you request a minor review, which is what will be the direction of this ordinance. This is not the blight that is spoken about in this ordinance. This is developer-induced blight, potentially. And we don't want to reward that. We don't want to reward that kind of behavior. we've taken no input from residents on this. I mean, this is a 4-day, 5-day, a week ago, I think this came out at night. This needs to be discussed with the neighborhood and the residents that are going to be ultimately supporting it. Attempting to go behind the back of the resident board, the Historic Preservation Board that was in place specifically for this purpose. We have citizens on this board that live in the neighborhood. They're residents you appointed to weigh in on projects that touch our community. This ordinance routes right around them. The current approach seems, to me, deceptive, certainly insincere, to the point where we've had these DTO studies done by paid consultants that encourage development north and south of Church Street. That was the findings. And so we're going around our resident boards. We're ignoring the output of the consultants the city has hired. To me, it seems like we are doing a disservice. Furthermore, the city are the city planning consultants and the citizen boards all just pawns for show? Like, what are we doing? Bring this to the citizenry. Work in tandem with us. Here's my kind of final questions. Who drafted this ordinance and when? How long has this been sitting on someone's desk in plans for this moment? How long are there plans that are already in place? Have any of you seen plans that are going to be coming before the board on June 23rd after the second reading if this passes? And I have to believe that those are in place because 36 months for some developments like this really isn't long enough to start from scratch and get to a point of permitting where you would expect it to be. So that's the questions I really want answers to before we see this thing go any farther. Thank you.
Diane Martins, Tanya Porter, Scott Seidler.
Good afternoon. My name is Diane Martins, and I'm here to say that I think it's a really bad idea to have the moratorium. In my opinion, staff has tried to convince the public that investment in the 5-block core of the downtown business district is being held back by the District of Historic Buildings. There's been no transparency of a supposed year-long study that supports the claim other than a map of investments, with Ms. Sheehan brought up, and $5 million or more on select parcels. There's no map of the small-scale investments. It's important to note that the comparisons are not apples to apples, as the parcels in the historic district generally are smaller. Actions taken by previous downtown development boards have done more to deter business by one-way streets, limited on-street parking, broadening roads, and non-compliance of design code that promotes storefront activity than by historic districting. The current model of urban design in Orlando is just another one-way street, if you would. Basically, the city telling the public what they want rather than the public telling the city what they want. You only have to look to the success of the Main Street programs in Orlando, which you've all brought up, to see that the model truly works. In the Mill Street, Main Street, once vacant buildings along Mills Avenue and Colonial Drive are now teeming with a variety of small business investments. In the Ivanhoe, Main Street streets have been tapered to reduce speed, increased on-street parking, and introduced controlled crosswalks. The Soto Main Street has also re-energized once-defunct buildings and improved on-street parking. Even once strip centers have been brought back to life, such as ones in Audubon Park, Main Street. Parking is readily available on both of the streets and in rear parking lots in most districts that make it easier for customers. Many of the 11 Main Street districts are nationally recognized examples of urban rebirth of once depressed areas. The return of the public investment has been a success. All of this has been done without the demolishing of any buildings. One of the pillars of success in the Main Street program is the reuse of existing buildings to create a sense of place. The Economic Development Department needs to go out of downtown and do a study on what's driving the success of surrounding businesses in the Main Street districts before caving to the pressure of developers. And thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Tanya Porter, Scott Seidler, Val Mobley. Ms. Porter, you probably want to pull that mic down.
Pardon me?
You got it. I just wanted you to pull the mic down.
I've heard a lot of talk of ordinances and moratoriums, economic advantages and growth incentives, but I have not heard much about the Downtown Historic District itself, what it is and why it is there, or of the collection of historic buildings it encompasses. Those buildings, most of them historic, once home to some of Orlando's earliest businesses, comprise the city's first economic center. The Downtown Historic District, Orlando's first historic district, was created in 1980 to preserve and protect those buildings, then nearly 100 years old. Joseph Bumby, Elijah Hand, Henry Metcalf, W.M. Slemons, and many others who built those buildings and the businesses that occupied them are long gone, but they have left Orlando a wonderful legacy. Excuse me, and to lose that is to lose part of the city's character and identity. It would be an especially sad loss coming just a year after Orlando celebrated its 150th anniversary, a milestone made possible by the vision and ambition of the pioneer businessmen and the strength of the moral city they built. We don't put historic buildings in museums. They are museums. Living museums. They connect us with our past. They help us understand who we were and how we got to be who we are now. Buildings document what the city looked like in the 19th century and why the arrival of the South Florida Railroad in 1880 and its imposing Church Street Station in 1889 generated so much of the growth. Historic buildings are themselves cultural and historic artifacts, and their inherent value merits the protection of historic districts. Historic districts and the buildings within them must remain for the enlightenment of future generations. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott Seidler, Val Mobley, Raymond Cox.
Back to a different level with the microphone. Mr. Mayor, City Commissioners, Scott Seidler, 635 Delaney Avenue, Orlando, Florida, 32801. I've called Orlando home since June of 2003, arriving just in time to watch the demise of the McCrory Woolworth block and the rise of the plaza, along with the world's most treacherous parking garage for anything larger than a bicycle. I was excited. I believed in the promise of a better downtown. I visited the movie theater. 23 years later, that's not the story we got. The plaza never brought downtown to life. It churned through tenant after tenant, and today it sits largely empty. The city's own director of economic development said it plainly. The majority of the retail spaces are empty. I served this city on the Historic Preservation Board for multiple terms, including as chair, so hear me clearly. The claim that the board blocks progress and development is pure fear-mongering. We have approved change after change in the district over years, not denying development, but offering creative solutions. Our recommendations aren't even bound by the preservation ordinance the way the city staff are, and time and again we voted to allow work the ordinance itself might discourage. I'm a contractor. I understand development economics, but I work in historic preservation and adaptive reuse. And there's another side that rarely gets said out loud. A 2011 Georgia study found that preservation creates 22% more jobs per dollar than new construction. In over 30 years, the federal historic tax credit has created 1.8 million jobs and offers developers already a 20% tax credit only available to historic buildings. Preservation isn't the sentimental choice, it's the smart one. As the mayor said, Church Street Station at its 1985 peak hosted over 1.7 million visitors annually, trailing only Disney, Universal, and SeaWorld in attendance. That was all done under Bob Snow and the same rules of the preservation district we have today. Done right, historic preservation works. We don't need less protection, we need better development ideas. We have only few blocks of history left. Strip the protection, and enough will be lost or changed beyond repair that in 3 years, the city will likely come back and tell us there's too little of our history left to justify our historic district anymore. And we'll be left with more empty buildings and more of our history in our landfill. The reason you see less development in the historic core is because it's already built out. Before we tear down our historic buildings, let's build out the empty lots first. There's a saying among those who fight for preservation in these circles. A city without old buildings is like a person without a memory. Mayor Dyer, city commissioners, please do not be the reason that Orlando forgets who it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Val Mobley, Raymond Cox, Tom Price.
Hi, City Council. Hi, Mayor.
Val Mobley, 226 West King Street, College Park. So I've lived in Orlando for 40 years. That's not as long as many of you have. You've been born and raised here. But in my time here, in these 40 years, I have seen a lot of change. Some of it good, some of it not so good. I personally love the Art Deco architectural style, and I love many different kinds of architecture, but I'm not a fan of glass and steel monolithic buildings. I believe that we as a people need to cherish what has come before us. Building materials and building codes have evolved over the years, and yes, we need to keep up with those changes. However, that does not mean that we should demolish buildings that some deem as not modern enough for the tourist capital of the United States. My first question about Ordinance 2026-18 is, why now? What is the hurry to put a moratorium in place on the historic preservation of buildings in the downtown core? Yes, there are buildings that are empty and probably need some love. Why can't these buildings be repurposed into apartments or condos? The interiors of these buildings can be completely gutted. I'm looking at 1 North Orange. I love that building. I would move in there if there were condos in there. As long as you keep the facade, isn't that what y'all want? Let's keep the facades of these buildings to be admired by all who see them, all our tourists. If the building in question is not tall enough for the developer to make a good profit, then why can't we let the building go up in height with the exterior matching the existing facade? And then you can put in there whatever you want. Surely there are architects in this city who can do that. Adaptive reuse. Isn't that what you said? Given that the public had only 5 days' notice of this action, and before a vote is taken, it seems to me like something fishy is going on here. Do you not want to hear from the public, or has the decision already been made behind closed doors? The current administration has only 18 months left in office and has been here for over 23 years, so why now? What is the rush? I'm concerned about the ethics of this decision. I understand that the ethics and conflict prohibitions of the city state that the abuse of position is when officials are prohibited from using their position to obtain a disproportionate benefit for themselves, their spouse, children, or business associates. You, the council, should avoid any action that might even appear improper or unethical. There's a standard conflict of interest.
Raymond Cox, Tom Price, Lawana Gelzer.
Raymond Cox is not available today.
Okay, Tom Price, Lawana Gelzer, Jill Vaughn.
Tom Price, 554 Lake Avenue, Orlando, 32801. Architect practicing in Orlando since 1971. I lived through this entire history. With me is former partner, Jim Strollo, who served with me on the Historic Preservation Board when it was founded in 1980 until 1992. The reason the Secretary of the Interior standards, which are precise, was imposed is that it enabled owners of historic properties to apply for and receive a 20%, in some cases 25% investment tax credit, which was a big deal when you're spending $2 million, as one of my clients did. There were 2 partners. They got a $500,000 tax credit, not a tax shelter, but a tax credit. They didn't pay taxes for the rest of their lives. In return for that, though, they restored the building. Now, I've seen develop here a false contention going on. Nobody who sits on the Preservation Board historically or concurrently or currently disagrees with the goals of development. My recommendation, my hope, is that the City of Orlando, rather than removing chairs from the table, would bring everybody together, that is, the Downtown Development Board, the Historic Preservation Board, city staff, mayor and council, and whoever wants to look in on it and work this out. You will find that you will reach a critical mass by putting all these people together with this intelligence and experience and imagination, that you will reach a solution to this problem that can incorporate historic buildings sensibly and effectively into new developments. They can encourage and inspire new developments. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Luana Gelzer, Jill Vaughn, Joseph Westlake.
Lawana Gelzer, 815 Hill Street. The question was posed, why now? Because you can. I see you. I know what moratoriums can do. I know what happens when you want to do what you want to do, rescind them. I remember Tinkerfield, national protected, historical. You tore it down anyway, because you wanted to. I remember the national protected headwaters of Wekiva Springs, John Young, Mercy Drive area, 8,000 trees gone. Been there millions of years. You tore it down. That's why we have flooding now. It's not 500-year flooding. It's man-made flooding because of what you voted on. We fought you for 5 years. You still did exactly what you wanted to. We had a moratorium in the Paramount community for no more homeless shelters in the 1.4 square mile community. Every time you want to do something, you rescind the moratorium. Last year, we got 256 more beds at the coalition. This year, we're going to get another 110 beds at the coalition. We got 2 buses last year. We keep seeing what was put in place to make sure the community shares. But you have moratoriums in other communities. You just rescind them. So welcome to the club, everybody. That's what happens to you. No matter how many times you come up and give them solutions, this is what happens. And why you just hearing about it? That's the way they do business around here. That's what I've learned in the past. We brought ideas. I heard great presentations today. I heard the community saying, why so quickly? I have an idea. I have a theory. But I'm going to go back to one of the presentations that you made about the park underneath I-4. Now, did you really look at the study that we've been doing with the EPA? They have the worst air quality under I-4 possible. We wouldn't have gotten this EPA grant had we not provided the proper data. You don't need to be underneath there. You need the proper shrubbery, you need whatever. I don't see you put beautiful, beautiful renderings up there. But sustainable, health-related, you are not listening to what is being provided to you. Overdevelopment and not sustainable development, smart growth, it's the problem we're having. So yes, I think it's a conflict. I have my theory, but I'm gonna say this. I'm sorry this is happening because I think that we could do a better job as a city. And like I said, my family has been here since 1948. I have seen a whole lot, but I can say to this, the decisions that are being made by staff and why you're doing stuff behind closed doors. Remember, guys, the McCoy building, they tore it down at night. They tore it down at night while nobody was looking.
Jill Vaughn and Joseph Westlake.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. Jill Vaughn, 333 South Garland Avenue, Orlando, Florida, 32801. My name is Jill Vaughn, and I serve as the President and CEO of the Downtown Orlando Partnership. The Downtown Orlando Partnership was established 65 years ago to promote business and champion business in downtown Orlando. And I am here today in support of the proposed amendments to the Downtown Historic District Development Review process. On a personal note, I have always had a deep appreciation for history, for historic preservation, and for architecture. I believe our historic buildings contribute to the unique character and the sense of place that make downtown Orlando special. Preserving and celebrating that history remains extremely important. At the same time, we must ensure that our policies support the investment, the redevelopment, and the adaptive reuse needed to create a thriving and a vibrant downtown. Over the past several years, many properties within the historic district have remained vacant. They've remained underutilized and in a state of deterioration. I believe this proposal strikes the appropriate balance by maintaining respect for our historic assets while creating a more predictable and efficient path for reinvestment and redevelopment. A healthy downtown depends on attracting residents, attracting visitors, businesses, restaurants, retail, and new activity. Streamlining the review process can help unlock opportunities for property owners while encouraging projects that contribute to the long-term vitality of downtown Orlando. Supporting this proposal is not about choosing development over preservation. It's about finding the right balance between honoring our past and creating the conditions necessary for downtown Orlando's future success. We appreciate the city's thoughtful approach to this matter and respectfully support the proposed amendments. Thank you.
Thank you. Joseph Westlake.
Hello, my name is Joseph Westlake from 533 Lake Avenue. I'm here because I care about historic preservation. I grew up playing in the Lake Cherokee parks. The historic character of my neighborhood is not an abstraction to me. It's where I'm from and a part of who I am. I'm asking the council to take a broader view of the problem this ordinance acknowledges. The current historic preservation structure fossilizes. It's led to decay and underinvestment. The staff and board culture have become activist rather than preservationist. The result is a process that operates on opinion rather than expertise and subjective preference rather than code. The ordinance provides relief for downtown, but its revival depends on the health of its surrounding neighborhoods, and this ordinance does nothing to unburden homeowners. On the same street in our district, 2 homeowners asked to replace asphalt shingle roofs. One family was approved. Another was required to install a bespoke, expensive metal roof. The board approved yet another homeowner to remove a metal roof and install asphalt. Same board, same district, 3 irreconcilable rulings. My own new construction project was held up for 18 months. Approval came only after spending hundreds of thousands, and legal counsel was involved, and it was conditioned on changes with no connection to code. It's no wonder historic properties have sat on the market for extended periods. These gems would have sold quickly and likely for far more elsewhere. Ownership in the historic districts is often uneconomic, leaving preservation to depend on passion and emotional ties that will only carry so far. The city has insulated itself, pushing through projects that were voted down or receiving special treatment. The Beardall Center window replacement is a vast improvement, but that very same window style has been denied on homes in our district. While the code can be improved, most of our problems come from a mismatch between staffing and the intent of the work. We need the right skills, temperament, and judgment to preserve without stifling. I speak not just as a resident, but also as the founder of a successful software company built in downtown. Building here was an extension of living here. People invest where they live. There's a great deal for us to do to turn around downtown core. I'm excited for the Magnolia and Lake Eola projects. We have earnest leadership at the CRA, and I'm hopeful that this ordinance, paired with protections for historic structures and further reforms for homeowners, can build momentum for a better downtown. I've prepared a list of reforms, and I'll submit to your offices in writing. Thank you for your time and for your service to our city.
Thank you. Okay, that's all the public comment that we have. Is there discussion? Commissioner Sheehan?
Anyone who knows me knows I love history and historic preservation. I live in a 1928 bungalow. I love my neighborhood, which is disappearing to McMansions and tandems. I was disappointed when this board would not give a designation to the Luba House a couple of months ago. We promised to save the building at least. And now we have today's proposed ordinance, which I must agree with members of the public. I just got notified like a couple, maybe a week ago. And just as an example, when I work with staff on something like, duplex restrictions and things like that, it takes 6 months or more. We have to go through all these readings and all this process. It has to go through all the boards, and then this just comes directly to us. And I don't blame y'all on the Historic Preservation Board and the Historic Preservationists for being upset about this process, because I'm deeply upset and offended by this process. And I'm sorry. I'm apologizing to all of you because you deserved to be treated with respect. If you're going to put the time, effort, and energy to serve on our boards, we should respect your opinion, and this should have gone to your board. And I'm very deeply embarrassed that that did not happen, and I think it was the wrong thing to do, so I apologize, all right, on the city's behalf. If no one else will, and no one else will acknowledge you, I will. I voted against the demolition of the McCrory's building, which is now the plaza. It is a strange layout with garbage all over the service bays, a dirty plaza, and an ugly billboard on its side. Cars can barely navigate the parking garage, all because of the bad layout. If we at least had followed traditional city guidelines, we would have had a better product. Now we have a bad building at our Main and Main, which was the justification for moving forward with the demolition at the time, which I thought the Historic Preservation Board did not go ahead with the demolition, but I'll have to go back and check that. Better development was supposed to happen at that corner. We had more retail shops in the old McCrory's building than we have now. We allowed the demolition of the Church Street Ballroom. Now, that's not in the historic district, it's adjacent. Again, for progress. It sits a vacant lot, more missing teeth in the core of our downtown. Many successful businesses were shuttered on Church Street and are vacant. I wondered if because they cater to the LGBTQ community, always excuses to tear down historic buildings. And I want to say that 55 West and Solaire and the Plaza were in the historic district and were projects that were built within a historic district. So I'm deeply distressed that that map is not, was not a fair representation that was shown to my colleagues. Bob Snow is rolling over in his grave. For those who don't know, he was the king of Church Street, founder of Rosie O'Grady's and the entertainment venues on Church Street, and one of the proponents of the downtown historic district. He sold his venues, and no one has been a proper steward of this area since. This area is not successful because it's not cool. It's not successful because nobody who has purchased it has given a damn about it. I believe in progress. Sometimes change is good, but there are alternatives to simply throwing away our historic district. This council can and has overridden specific projects. We could encourage facade protection. We could incentivize facade protection, build high and intense behind the facades. We could give outdoor cafe exceptions to our preservation code on a case-by-case basis, not throwing away our protections. 49 buildings are going to be impacted by this. 9 are landmarks and will lose all protection. And I've only heard of 2 instances where they're concerned over historic preservation. Isn't this a lot of overkill? And I want to read off the list of the 9 historic landmarks that are now going to lose, if we vote on this today, are going to lose their protections. The Crest Building, the Hunt Brannon Building, Nicholson Collier Building, Old Orlando Railroad Depot Building. I love that building. Bumby Hardware Building, Siemens Department Store, Rogers Keeney Building. Thank God we own it, but who knows what we're going to do now. The Beecham Theater and the First National Bank. Are those all so unimportant as historic landmarks that we're just going to say, well, you know, we need to make it easier, so we're just going to bulldoze them? Buildings we can never get back were bulldozed for progress. The San Juan Hotel, the Opera House, Woolworth McCrory, historically black businesses that were demolished for the Kia Center. We have restaurants and new businesses every week getting approval in the CRA. Redevelopment doesn't always bring new business. We require first floor retail that sits empty because developers only care about the money-making residential units. They don't care about the first floor, and they don't build it out, and that's a lot of the problem in downtown. We do have challenges in downtown, but the answer is not to do away with historic buildings that add to the fabric of our downtown. The same people who complain about historic preservations are the same ones who complain about permitting, and we're not talking about getting rid of that. Residents who live in historic districts have to make improvement based on HP rules. We aren't following our own rules and are setting a terrible example, and that's what I'm concerned. Now let's throw away the historic preservation in the neighborhoods too. I am a vehement and passionate no. This goes against everything that I believe in. It goes against the people I represent. I have knocked over on tens of thousands. I've knocked over thousands of doors when I've run for office. And I've talked to the people who live in the historic districts, and they're passionate about this. And they're not just passionate about where they live, they're passionate about our downtown as well. And this is a slap in the face to people who care about history, and I'm horrified, and I'm a vehement no.
Commissioner Chapin.
Thank you all. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, staff, for the presentation. Thank you, residents, for coming and giving input. I'm not the oldest person on the board. I'm not the youngest person on the board, but I have been here 55 years. My earliest memory is feeding the ducks at Lake Eola. I've got a picture to prove it as a young toddler. The Christmas parades downtown, my first sports jacket purchased at J.C. Penney on Orange Avenue. As a teen and early adult, my first job was at Church Street Station. That was the ownership group after Bob Snow. Yeah. As a young professional, moving back here from college, I was involved for a decade with the Downtown Orlando Foundation, whose sole mission was to fund, sponsor initiatives aimed at civic improvement, cultural development, economic prosperity. And I was married at the Cathedral of Church of St. Luke. These memories were created by people and experiences. The historic overlay may have been created to preserve the past, but today I think we have to ask ourselves honestly whether it's preventing the future. If our goals, and they're the ones we talk about every day, of more housing, greater affordability, better transit, increased walkability, more investment, and a vibrant downtown, then we need policies that advance those goals, not policies that make them harder to achieve. We talked about uncertainty as being, that was a common thread through many of the people that spoke here today. Anyone looking to build or renovate anywhere has basically the building department and the fire marshal. And you may not like the answer, but you know the rules, and you know what's required, and you know what success looks like. In the historic overlay district, you layer in a third regulatory obstacle, the Historic Preservation Board. And unlike the building department and fire codes, it's often subjective, which is okay. But that results in no clear timeline, no clear standard, no predictable outcomes, multiple rounds of design, a constant back and forth that creates frustration, tension, and most importantly, uncertainty. Speaking to the owners of 1 South Orange Avenue, which is a magnificent building, as someone pointed out, they wanted to take down an awning. The awning was not historic because it wasn't original, and it was it wasn't up to code, so it wasn't safe, and they didn't want it. $1.5 million later, a awning was built in Canada, and the owner was forced to install that even though they didn't want it and even though it was not historic. That person is a huge proponent of downtown preservation, and I don't think he would go through the same process again today. Housing and affordability. Downtown Orlando has a housing shortage. Every discussion about affordability eventually comes back to supply. If we want housing to become more affordable, we need more housing. The most successful downtown are places where people actually live. As a city, that housing and density should be occurring downtown. Again, we talk about less traffic, more walkability, more transit, greater sustainability. These goals require more people living downtown. Some of our historic buildings are charming and unique. They are also difficult to modernize. Modern tenants need ADA accessibility, fire suppression systems, commercial kitchen ventilation, grease exhaust systems, modern life safety infrastructure. We cannot say we want better businesses, better restaurants, and more investments in downtown while making it nearly impossible for those businesses to operate in many of those older buildings. What has actually worked, we saw. Instead of debating theory, we looked at the results. Downtown Orlando's greatest success stories over the last 15 to 20 years have occurred outside of the historic preservation overlay. What do they have in common? They brought people downtown, residents, jobs, businesses, energy. I began with a simple question: has the historic overlay, despite its good intentions, become an obstacle to the future we say we want in downtown Orlando? A future of more housing, more affordability, more walkability, better connectivity to transit. We can honor our history without standing in the way of our future. In fact, with the incentive program, it looks like we are going to do just that. And I would add that with the expiration of the CRA in the next 10 years, that is a reason, a significant reason to try this now before that clock ticks out in 10 years. That's why I believe a moratorium is appropriate at this time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Ortiz.
Thank you, Mayor. Well said, Commissioner Chapin. Let me just ask a few things. As we ask everyone your opinion, in many cases, we don't like government to tell us what. I'm the first one to say that I like lesser government. We don't like government to tell us what to do. But at the same time, we want to tell other people what to do with their buildings. Have anybody asked the owners of these buildings what they want to do with their buildings? Can they afford to continue to maintain these buildings? Has anyone talked about flattening all these buildings around here? Because I don't remember anybody saying anything about taking all these buildings down. We want to revitalize some of these buildings. We want to see what other ideas are out there. We're doing a moratorium to see what's out there. Nobody has talked about taking buildings down yet, or ever. We're just talking about how we're going to address these issues we're dealing with. We want a better downtown, but we want to stop the progress. So how are we going to do this? How are we going to balance this equation? I agree. I think I heard Mr. Morton's, did I pronounce that right? I want to make sure that I don't mispronounce the name. Gentleman, I would be more than willing to sit down and listen to you. But at the same time, I want to make sure that it's an objective conversation, because we have some issues. And these owners of these buildings are having issues, financial issues. Inflation is incredibly out of our control. And these are things that we cannot control all the time here, because these are things that are imposed by other levels of government and by things going on around the world. And people are trying to survive. And people are trying to find housing, as Commissioner Chapin was saying. And we're trying to move forward with our community. So what are we going to prioritize here? And I think it's time for us to really sit down and look at the equation and see how we can make this happen for all of us. So yes, we should be talking to each other. But at the same time, there's decisions we have to make that are not easy decisions. Nobody's trying to steal anything from anybody. Nobody's trying to be sneaky. It's not easy. It's just not easy. I've talked to people downtown. I've talked to some of the owners of these buildings. And as I said before, some of them said, Christmas. I said, what that means? I said, well, it's good because we have all these expenses and it's really hard to deal with them. I said, okay, so that's good feedback. They even told me the story about the Beaching Club, which I didn't know. Back in the days, they were trying to flatten this place. Had they flattened it, we wouldn't have that historic building today. So let's sit at the table. Let's talk about this. And this is one of the reasons why we're doing this today. That's why we're listening to you. We're trying to see what the feedback is. What do you think about this? I'm pretty sure we're going to come up with something. So let's not get at each other. Let's not become too negative about this. I think we can move forward as a community, as we have done in the past. And the outcome is going to be great. Because so far, please don't tell me that you don't think Orlando has done great. We have our issues. We do have our issues. But look back 20 years, 25 years. I've been here for 42. And I know this is a much better Orlando than the one I came to. So let's continue working together. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed?
No.
Okay, passes 6-1. Ed, could you get us ready for general appearance, please?